Amy K YouTube Live, and today I'm going to show you how I made what I think are cute little note cards with the Grow with Love stamp set bundle. That is one of the Stampin' Up! Upcoming items that will be available to order in the online exclusive starting on the 7th of January. So this is, like I said, I love this little stamp set bundle, and I thought I'd try out and check it out and see if I could come up with something fun, kind of a fun way to use the little envelopes in here, and hopefully you like the idea. So, all right, hey, Susan and Sally and Karen, thanks for hopping in, and Debbie, I see you're here as well, so thanks for joining today. I appreciate it. All right, so what I've made is a little set of note cards. Oh, everybody's hopping in. Christine and Pam and Mary Ruth and Kathy and Joan, Carol, thanks everybody for joining. And it's been kind of a minute since I've done a live, so it's kind of like running through my head, trying to figure out, make sure I was doing everything right. So hopefully it'll go fairly smoothly. So, and it must be Friday, right, Karen? It has been so hard to keep up with Christmas being on a Wednesday and New Year's Day being on a Wednesday. I don't know. I swore those days were Sundays, and I feel like today is Tuesday, but in fact it's Friday, and it's just been all kind of crazy trying to keep up with this. So, hey, Kathy and Gina Marie, thanks for joining. So what I did is made some little note cards, and they're pretty small. They measure about 2¼ inches by 3½ inches when they're folded. So it's a 2¼ by 7-inch piece of paper to start with. And actually, what I used for the card base is I just cut up some of the basic white note cards and envelopes note cards. I just took them and cut them down to 2 note cards that measure 2¼ they obviously started out flat, so they were 2¼ by 7 when they started, and just folded them in half. And I was able to get 2 out of each of the little note cards. And then there's a little piece left over that you can, I don't know, stamp on or put in your recycle bin or whatever you want to do with it. And then I made these little envelopes for them, which are kind of like the little seed packets with the die set and some of the perfectly plaid designer series paper, which again will be available to order starting on the 7th of January. So the Grow with Love stamp set bundle is actually an online exclusive. So that will be available out. You'll see it out in the online store starting on the 7th. And then this paper is actually part of one of the suites in the mini catalog that will be starting on January 7th. So you'll be able to order that paper too. So all right, so this is one of the little note cards and envelopes. This is another one. We're going to only make 2 of these. I decided you didn't need to sit and endure all 3 because they're basically the same thing. But this is another little note card and the coordinating envelope that goes with it. And then we've got the final one here. And again, you can kind of mix and match these. The greenery images, if you like the basil more than the mint that I put on mine, you could easily switch this one to the basil image as opposed to the mint image. So whatever it is that you want to do. But this is what I made. So like I said, just a cute little set. I thought of note cards. Oh, and before I get too far down the line, so this is an old gift card that I had. And actually, gift cards fit almost, I mean, they're pretty much a perfect fit. A standard gift card fits inside one of these. So if you're wondering about the size on it, they're about perfect size for a gift card. So hopefully that helps you. They're, like I said, to me, they're a good size and, you know, easy to use. So, all right. Oh, hey, thanks everybody. Glad that you're liking. And yes, the little seed packets are really, it's cute. It's a cute little stamp set bundle. All right, so let's set a little of this mess aside, talk about a couple of things here. So this is the Grow with Love stamp set. Again, it's got some good sentiments in it. And you'll notice, I'll show you in a minute how I got the sentiment without the for your love and care underneath it when I stamped it on my little cards. And you've got your greenery images and then this awesome frame that I used, and I love it. And every time I use the set, I'm sure I'm going to use that frame. Then there are coordinating dies. There's a die that will cut out the frame. There's a die that cuts out each of the stamped greenery images. But no, it does not cut out the words on it. So if you want the words on the paper, you have to stamp those separately and then die cut your image. And then we've got a couple of banner or sentiment dies. And then here are the little dies that I used for hold on, let me pull that back over. For the back of the envelope here for the little thing that I used to secure it. I'm sure there's a word for it, tab, I don't know. And then we have this circle die that will cut out the Grow with Love sentiment here. So it is a great bundle, and definitely one you're going to want to get your hands on as soon as you can on the 7th of January. And then speaking of the online exclusives, just reminding you always to take a look at those anytime that you are ordering. Go out underneath that online exclusives tab in the Stampin' Up! Online store. This is just a very small sampling of some of the current online exclusives are on the right. The ones that are actually upcoming are here on the left. And again, this is a very small sampling sampling of what's available. So definitely go out anytime you're in the online store and click on that online exclusives button in the menu, and you'll be able to see all sorts of awesome things out there. And just so you know, anything that is on the last chance products list that does not sell out before the new catalog starts on the 7th will actually remain in the last chance products section. So make sure you're out there looking at that as well every time. That's going to continue to be updated about every 2 months as the year goes on. But yeah, just know that that is out there, and there's some really good deals on that, as well as, again, just the items that you don't want to miss out on. So, oh, good. I'm glad actually you're able to, yep, definitely, Marilyn. They're perfect size for just a standard gift card. Now, if you there's some of the companies make those weird gift cards, and, they wouldn't work very well for that. But just a standard issue gift card, yep, they're perfect for that. So, all right, let's get started with a little bit of stamping. I've got the frame image from the Grow with Love stamp set already on a block here with early espresso ink, and we're just going to stamp that. We're going to ink it up and stamp it on the little card bases. Again, I cut these from basic white note cards and envelopes. So I basically cut one of the note cards into 2 pieces that measure about 2 1/4 by 7, and then they're scored automatically. They're scored already for you at the 3.5 inch point. So again, just going to ink that up, stamp it on the second one. And it's not terribly difficult or really that important to get these stamped perfectly straight and centered and all that. They're just little note cards. So if you don't get it stamped exactly, you're all good. All right, then I'm going to ink up. I've got my mint image here first, and I'm going to grab a piece of basic white cardstock as well. So I've got old olive ink, and I'm going to ink up the mint image. And depending on which designer paper you use from the Timeless Plaid will kind of dictate which color you're going to use on it. So there are a wide variety of colors in that pack of paper. And yeah, so you can kind of pick and choose which one you like best. So there we go. We got our little mint image on the card front. And then I'm going to stamp it a second time just on some basic white cardstock here that we're going to be die cutting. And then while I've got that out, I'm going to grab my rosemary image, because that actually is also stamped in old olive ink. And we're going to stamp that here on the basic white cardstock. There we go. And I'm going to close that up because the card front with the rosemary, I actually stamped it in crumb cake ink. So I'm going to clean off the stamp here. All right. Got a little chamois out, cleaning that off. And then we're going to ink it up here in crumb cake ink. And that's what I'm going to stamp on the little card front with. All right. Hopefully I'll get it on here fairly straight and reasonably centered. And if not, oh well. Again, definitely not the end of the world. All right. So most of the card is actually done. That's kind of it for the stamping on the front of it. We do have to do our sentiments yet. So I'm going to do, I've got the first one here that says "You're on my mind." And I'm going to grab my little embossing buddy, just to try to take off as much of the static and the fingerprinty mess that I usually leave on things. So I hopefully don't end up with embossing powder everywhere. Trying to decide, yeah, I think we'll put it on here like this, because I can't remember exactly how big the die is going to be. And then we're going to do some heat embossing. Actually, yeah, we'll heat emboss it, and I'll come back and show you the other one, which we're going to have to heat emboss again, but I should have planned it better and done the thank you one first, but I don't want the embossing or the Versamark to get too dry here in between times. So we'll just grab this, take my heat tool, and we're going to go ahead and heat emboss. So this is the Stampin' Up! Heat tool. There are 2 settings on it. There's a level 1 setting for drying and a level 2 setting for heat embossing. So the level 2 setting gets a little bit hotter. The level 1 setting you can use if you want to speed up the process of, for watercoloring and want to hurry up the process of drying, you can use the level 1 setting. But level 2 setting does take a minute to get hot enough to actually heat emboss. So, hey, Barbara, thanks for joining. Glad you're here. So there we go. It's starting to turn that shiny and bright white, and that means that you're done heat embossing that part of the sentiment. I'm going to shut that off, and then I'm going to do the one that I should have done first, which is the little thank you sentiment. And I'm going to grab some Post-it note tape. I just use the standard issue 1 inch wide Post-it note tape. I know it comes in 1/2 inch wide pieces as well, and it may come wider. I just have only seen personally the 1 inch and 1/2 inch wide. You can get this stuff at pretty much any office supply store. And it is one of my favorite stamping tools. I use it all the time for holding things down. It's a nice little thing to have so that you don't accidentally stamp where you don't want to, or when you're doing like blending stuff and whatever. It's just a nice thing to have, and it doesn't leave residue, and it doesn't stick to the cardstock, so it doesn't rip everything up. So it's an awesome little tool, and I definitely recommend getting some. All right, back with the Versamark ink. So what I've done is covered up the part of the sentiment that I don't want to show when I'm doing my stamping, and I'm just going to ink up the rest of it with Versamark ink. And yep, looks like I got it pretty well. And then the key to doing the masking is making sure that you take the mask off before you go to stamp it, because yep, I've done it before too, where you're like, oh, I'm going to get this sentiment all nicely stamped and on here, and then realize that you've left the mask on, and then you get a big blob of ink on it anyway, and it doesn't quite turn out like you think it will. All right, so let's get this, get some embossing powder. This is again from the Basics Wow embossing powders, and this is the white embossing powder that I'm using. And there are a couple little flecks down there. I just want to make sure that none of those end up getting heat embossed, so I'm just picking those off for a second here. And then I'm going to grab my heat tool again. Oh, well, cool. I'm glad that helped you, Heather. So, yep, definitely the level 1 setting is for drying. So it still gets hot enough that you don't want to put your fingers in front of it, but it doesn't get nearly as hot as it does with the heat embossing part of it. So it's a great tool to have, and I love that it's a little more versatile than just a standard heat tool, where usually the only thing you can do with them is just do heat embossing. So, all right, so let's get that out of the way, and then we're going to be doing a little die cutting here. So I'm going to bring the dies back in, and I've got this banner die, which is going to cut this sentiment as well as this sentiment. And then I've got the mint die. Whoops. Would be helpful if I grabbed the correct die instead of the one that goes around the basil. So there we go. The mint die and then the rosemary die. And I'm just going to run those through the die cutting machine, so I'll be right back. Hey, Carol, Happy New Year. And yeah, so I'm definitely glad that you're glad I'm back, because I missed y'all. So it's amazing. I don't know. It was nice having a little break, but I definitely enjoy the routine. So, all right, get these die cut. Yep, having the kids around for the holidays is nice. The younger one is back at school already. So they went back yesterday. And the older one is down visiting her grandparents right now. So she's away, but yeah, so I'm back at work. All right, let me run this through the die cutting machine. So there's one sentiment. And there's the other sentiment. I probably totally forgot to say I stamped this on boho blue cardstock. So that's the color that I used for my sentiments. Like I said, I'm a little rusty on this. I haven't done it in a little while, so I forget all the stuff I normally yak about. So, all right, let's grab some Stampin' Dimensionals, and we're just going to take the die cuts and stick them on the card fronts. And I use half Stampin' Dimensionals, so I do chop mine up a little bit. If you prefer the minis, I actually am going to use the mini Stampin' Dimensionals in just a minute, and I'll show you why. When we're making the envelopes, I use the mini Stampin' Dimensionals, but I prefer the half ones for the most part. So I'm going to take this die cut, and I'm just going to kind of place it over the top of the crumb cake one that I've stamped on the card front so that they're slightly offset. I don't know if you really need to do that. I just thought it looked a little, I like the way it looked with them offset. If you don't like that look, you can certainly stack them one on top of the other and then just have your little, the word sentiment down there with the name of your herb on it. So again, like I said, I like the way it looked with them a little offset, but if you don't like that, you can definitely stick them on there straight. So, all right, and again, the same thing with the little mint. Just taking that and sort of sticking it a little sideways across the card front. And then I'm gonna grab some more Stampin' Dimensionals here, and we are gonna put the sentiments right over the top of the die cut sentiments. The die cut images, not sentiments. But I'm only going to take my Stampin' Dimensionals and put them out on the very edges because the center of it is going to be over the top of my already dimensionalized image there. So I didn't want to have a weird lump in the middle of it. So I just made sure that I put my Stampin' Dimensionals out towards the edges and get it on there somewhat straight. And I've got my other one here as well, and we're just going to take Stampin' Dimensionals and same thing, just putting them out to the edges. And then we'll go ahead and do the same thing with this one and just layer it right over the top. And then the final thing on the cards is I did put a couple of these little pecan pie and clear ribboned adhesive back dots, which these are a couple of the online exclusives as well. So I just grabbed 2 of each of those, and I know that I've been harassed before. Someone told me that it was clear that I had had no art training because I only put 2 of these little gems on the card, and I should always put 3. Anyway, whatever. I like 2, so that's what I'm going with. That is what my art training tells me. And technically, with the 3 grouping, you're supposed to create a triangle. You don't necessarily have to have 3 of the same thing, just as a little tip. It can be 3 of anything. You can just, as long as you create a triangle, that's what supposedly makes it visually appealing. So there you go. That's my art tip for the day, for whatever that's worth. All right. So I'm going to fold these in half and then do a quick crease with the bone folder on them. And the cards are all done. Now we just need to assemble our envelopes. And these are 6x6 pieces of designer series paper in the pack already. And these are just 2 of the random ones that are from the Timeless Plaid. I've almost called it Perfectly Plaid. Timeless Plaid designer series paper pack. And again, these will all be available to order starting on the 7th of January. So I'm just basically, I'm going to place this on here so that I have a rough estimate of where I should stamp my frame. The reason I did that and then stamp the frame inside here is I knew that I was going to be, wiggling the frame around a little bit on the die cutting, but I wanted to have a general place to stamp and know that I was going to get it so that the little seed packet would be able to be created, because if I stamped it too far over to the edge, something like that, then I wouldn't be able to put my seed packet together. So for me, it was helpful to stick this on here and then stamp it first and then die cut it. And so it's up to you. If you want to die cut it first and then stamp it, that works as well. But I figured I had a little more wiggle room on my die cutting if I had stamped it first and then die cut it. But whatever works best for you. So I don't think it matters how many gems you put on it either. And yeah, Carly, you would be amazed at the things that people say. And I'm sure it's just trolls out there trying to get people to respond to them, but whatever. There's just the delete and block button, which works quite handily. So that's my, just whatever. Delete, block, done. And then they go away forever. So, all right. Also, when I was doing the stamping, I did grab the coordinating ink again and the image, and then we're going to stamp the little basil image again on the front of the envelope. Well, yeah, it'll be the front of the envelope. So we're going to go ahead and stamp that. And I called it basil, and it's mint. One of these days I'll get all the words right, but probably not for a while. So, all right. Let me grab crumb cake ink, and we are going to stamp the rosemary image in crumb cake ink. So, and again, just doing the same thing, stamping it right inside the little rectangle that I've already stamped on here. Just gives it a little something pretty on the front of the envelope as well. Since these, clearly you're not going to be mailing them. You can put them inside an envelope and mail them, but you're not going to be able to put postage on these and mail them because they're far too small. All right, let me go run these through the die cutting machine. All right. Whoops. Okay. we get our first one cut. Let me grab the other one. All right, whoop, come on. The die is misbehaving. All right, so there we go. There is a little bit, not a lot left over on the 6x6 pieces of Designer Series paper. You could maybe trim a little bit of this off and use it on like the inside of a card base or something like that, but it kind of takes up most of the piece of paper. So let me get this die out of the way here. And then we're gonna go ahead and assemble these. So, all right. The first thing to do when you assemble them is, I don't know how easily you can see it on here, but when you die cut it, it also puts the little score lines on here for you. So basically you just fold it and score it on each of the little score lines. And I'm an enabler again. I appreciate, well, I'll take that. That's the kind of, mean thing you can call me, that I'm always happy to be called an enabler. So this is a great bundle. I couldn't help myself. It was one of the first ones that I saw in the online exclusives. And I'm like, oh yeah, I definitely need to get that. So, all right. So to make the envelope look like a seed packet, you want to fold the two side flaps in first and then fold the bottom flap up. If you don't like the look of that, you can always fold the bottom flap in first and then go like that, but I thought it looked a little bit more like an authentic seed packet the other way around. Hopefully I'm right on that. I'm not much of a, I'm not a green thumb person, so if I'm wrong, feel free to correct me and say, no, it goes the other way around. But I made mine this way because I like the way it looked better. So I put a little bit of Stampin' Seal along the edge here. If you want to use your Seal Plus, you can. If you want to use tear and tape adhesive, you can. But I found that Stampin' Seal worked out well for me, and it seems to hold them well enough because I didn't way overstuff the envelopes, so it doesn't need a lot of extra adhesive to hold it. Just did the same thing there on the bottom. Definitely your black thumbs. I see, I don't know that I would say I have black thumbs. Mine are more of the brown variety. Usually I don't kill stuff immediately. It usually takes a month or so and then the stuff dies. So, so yes. All right. Okay, so we've got our two little envelopes done here. I'm going to take my coordinating card and tuck it inside. And again, gift cards, for those of you that are coming in a little bit later, let me grab the standard issue gift card. Fits perfectly in here. So if you want to tuck in your little gift card, if you have one, you can do that. Otherwise, just your little cards will go in there. Oops, I don't even know. I can't remember which one I made first and which one I made second. So, all right, taking that and tucking it right in. The only thing that did get caught, obviously, is where I had stuck dimensionals on the sentiment. If you don't want to have to worry about that, you can always put everything on with glue dots or multi-purpose liquid glue, whatever it is that works better. So I am correct in folding. Okay, so Karen, our official, well, one of the official plant ladies I know tells me that I'm doing it right, so I'm calling it good. All right, so to secure the little envelopes, I actually took some linen thread and just cut off a little piece. And I know I'm going to trim this down, but I want to make sure that I have plenty of it to start with. Maybe I'll go ahead and get the second one done. So again, this is linen thread. You can use baker's twine or whatever it is that matches what you're working with. Ribbon might not work out as well, although I've never tried it with ribbon, so maybe you can do it with ribbon. I don't know about that. Ahead of time, and I put them in a little container in hopes that I wouldn't lose track of everything because they're little dots. I cut, where's my die set? I used this die to cut a set of these. There are two little and two bigger circles on here, and I cut them from Early Espresso cardstock, and my goodness, who put that die on there? All sorts of crazy like that. So I used that and ran this through one time for each of the little envelopes that I am making. And we're going to grab a mini Stampin' Dimensional, which I almost never use, but I did on these because they fit so nicely. So your mini Stampin' Dimensional, you're just going to smoosh it on the back, as centered as possible on the back of your circle die cut. And then you take off the other cover and you take your linen thread and you stick it right in the middle of it. So you got the linen thread stuck to the dimensional, and then you're just going to flip it over, and you can decide whether you want to put the thread starter on the top or the bottom. So if you want your thread to start down here, just obviously put it underneath, or put it underneath the dimensional, the circle that you're going to stick down here. I had mine starting from the top, so I don't know if, again, right or wrong, I don't know, but that's how I did mine. So we're going to take a second little dot here, stamp it, mini Stampin' dimensional, stick it on the back of my second circle, close this so that I can hopefully get them lined up somewhat straight. And then all you have to do with your linen thread is just kind of do that little sort of figure 80 looking twist as many times as you want to, and then trim off the excess of your linen thread. And you will note that these dies have a little hole in the center of them. What I think they were actually designed for is you're supposed to thread your twine through them, which to me would be a lot more difficult than just doing what I did and wrapping it around the dimensionals. But they do have these little dots that they have in the die set that you can use to cover. So if you wanted to do, if I wanted to cut the little tiny dots in Old Olive or something so that they were a contrasting color, you can certainly do that. But I did not, so I just did them the same color, and I put a little tiny drop of multi-purpose liquid glue. Everybody hold your breath, because I'm the worst at using way too much of that darn glue. And then I grabbed my take your pick tool and just picked up my little die cut dot. Whoop, see, there we go. And stuck it on and held it down for a second, and hopefully didn't glue myself to it. And there we go. So there's a little extra glob of glue there, but it'll dry eventually. I hate liquid glue. All right, so I'm gonna do the same thing on the back of this little envelope as well. Just gonna grab one of these die cuts, or two like I just did, and stick this dimensional to the back of the little die cut dot. Grab my twine. Oh, that's kind of shredded on that end. I think I'll start with a little nicer end there and stick it in the middle of the dimensional, and come over here to my envelope. Whoop. Ugh, some days I swear my fingers just do the exact opposite of what my brain is telling them to do. And then same thing, just going to grab the little dot or a little Stampin' dimensional and stick it on the back of this one. Get my thread out of the way, line it up, put it on the bottom part of the envelope, and then twist my little linen thread around here a couple times, trim off the extra. There we go. And then same thing, going to grab a little bit of liquid glue, put a little dab here in the center of each one. Now I did try just to smash down. I thought maybe if I smashed down hard enough that I would be able to get these little die cut pieces, the little die cut circles that are covering, to actually stick to the Stampin' dimensional, but I was mistaken. No matter how hard I smushed, they absolutely would not stick. So I ended up resorting to the liquid glue, and you know, the mess that liquid glue is for me, I ended up having to use it anyway. So there we go. And I'm just gonna take my fingers and smush those down for just a second and make sure they're, see, this is why liquid glue and I are not friends, because I usually stick myself to something every time I use it. So there you go, is proof. I actually stick myself to the project pretty much every time that I use liquid glue. So, all right. And I had cut a couple extra of these just because I was afraid that if I would lose one, it'd go flying somewhere. I'd never find that little tiny thing again. All right. There you go. So that is it. For the final one that I did, I guess I didn't tell you the colors that I used on this. This is actually stamped Early Espresso and Lost Lagoon on the envelope. And then it's Old Olive that I used to stamp the two images, or I'm sorry, Old Olive for the background image, and then Lost Lagoon for the image that I die cut. And then I colored it with a little bit of Old Olive Stampin' Blends marker. So I'll hold it up here for a second so you can kind of see a little different, but basically the same thing, just a little different color scheme. So that is the one, and then we've got this one, and then this one, and the little envelope to go with that, and cleaning up my mess here a little bit. But yeah, that's it. So they're quick and easy to put together. And this is such a fun bundle. So I hope that I have actually talked you all into getting it because it is a good one. Again, it will be available to order starting on the 7th of January with all of the new items from the mini catalog. This is actually an online exclusive bundle. The paper is from the mini catalog. So just be on the lookout. Make sure you're always checking that online exclusive list when you're putting in your order so you don't miss out on any of the good stuff. All right. Thanks everybody for joining today. Details for this will be posted on my blog tomorrow, which is stampwithamyk.com. I'll link directly to the blog post once the post goes live around 8 o'clock in the morning Eastern time. So you'll be able to go look at all the measurements, the colors, the cardstock cuts, find the printable PDF and all the other good stuff that goes with it every time I put out a blog post. So thanks again. And yep, you definitely need to get this, Marilyn. You're going to love it. It's lots of fun. Have fun making the little envelopes. And I was so happy. It was a happy find for me that the gift cards fit into them perfectly. So everybody have a wonderful weekend. I will plan to be live around 2 o'clock Eastern time on Tuesday. And then again, next week, Friday, around 2 o'clock Eastern time. It's time to get back to work. All right. Have a good weekend and we'll chat with y'all soon.